over the last 50 years, gender norms have shifted. It's shifted significantly in terms of women's roles in the workforce, right? And society as a whole. And just the whole like feminist movement of the 60s and 70s and the burning the bras and, you know, the birth control and all that. It's broken down a lot of traditional gender roles, and it's paved the way for greater equality and opportunities for women.
Welcome to Pretty Rich Podcast. My name is Sheila Bella, founder of Sheila Bella Microblading. I am also the American Academy of Micropigmentation Board President, and I am the CEO of Pretty Rich Bosses. I am the mother of 3 sons and the proud wife of William James Rouge III. My journey started as a broke server at a sports bar wearing a schoolgirl outfit, serving beer and avocado fries. And I got fired from that job. It was crazy. And within 3 years, I became a multi-millionaire as a brow artist. When the pandemic hit and my salon was shut down, I was devastated until I realized that opportunity doesn't go away. It just changes location. So I built my second multi-million-dollar business online, proving to my own imposter syndrome that it wasn't the business, it was me and my knack for making money. So, how did I go from being an uneducated immigrant from the Philippines to being featured in Forbes magazine, Bravo, NBC, and CEO Weekly? Well, all by the grace of God and realizing that I was my own Prince Charming. I had to be my own life jacket because I had more control over my life than I thought I did. And literally, all it took for me was to finally decide that I wasn't gonna be mediocre anymore. The conversations in this podcast are going to show you that you're not alone, that really none of us know what we're doing, and it's also gonna equip you with the tools necessary to help you do exactly what I should have done all along, which is to believe in myself, stop waiting for permission, and skip the line. It's gonna help you create your perfect job and hire yourself as CEO. Because power is never given to you. You just have to take it. And hey, I want to feature you on this podcast, and all you have to do is text me the word podcast to 310-388-4588, along with any and all questions that you may have, and I will answer them here along with a shout out. Are you ready, Beauty Boss? Let's go.
It is getting hot in here because on this episode of Pretty Rich Podcast, we are talking about the challenges of female breadwinners. Okay, so right now what I'm doing is I am going live on our Facebook group, Beauty Biz Secrets. If you are not a part of that yet, you definitely should be. Because on there, I have a lot of amazing value, like live episodes of Pretty Rich Podcast I record on there in higher quality. Plus, I don't delete them. It stays on there. Plus, did you know that you also get the first part of every course I've ever created on there? And there's a lot of amazing resources. Plus, I know you guys want to connect with one another. I know you guys I know you guys will level up a lot faster if you work together with other beauty entrepreneurs that are like-minded. So that's why I created it. So it's basically a free community. We have a lot of fun there. I am not the only one that goes live in there. Some of my business strategists go live in there as well. And so that's why you got to join. Today, we are talking about breadwinning. I am really excited for this because I feel like I've wanted to do this series for a very long time. And I think I'm going to continue to do it because I'm just so passionate about it, because I think female breadwinners need a support system. We we have very unique challenges that are not really talked about in the world. And we're going to chat about it today. Today with Female Breadwinners is part one of this podcast. Part two is going to be tomorrow. Today, we're going to talk about the challenges of being a female breadwinner. And tomorrow, we are going to close it off with how to cope. How to cope. Who needs help coping being a female breadwinner? There's a lot of blessings, right? First of all, I just want to say, I didn't ask to be a female breadwinner. I didn't I know some people, make the decision early in their lives that I don't want to make that much. I don't want money to be the biggest thing in my life. I didn't make that decision either. I want to be present for my kids. Just because you're a hashtag girl boss doesn't mean you can't be present for your kids. Just because you're the breadwinner doesn't mean that work is everything, that you forgo, milestones and recitals and hockey games and things like that because you're the breadwinner. It just means that you just happen to, at least for me, I just happen to make more money. I didn't set out to do that. Do you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? There are definitely challenges with being a female breadwinner, and we're going to discuss them all today in this unfiltered episode of Pretty Rich Podcast. But before we continue, I just want to invite you guys to check out getpmuclients.com. Getpmuclients.com, where basically I give you guys a financial freedom flight path for those of you in the beauty industry who want to know how to double your income or your money back. Plus, it comes with a free sales script and a free Grow Your Gram course for any of you that finish that webinar until the very end. So go to getpmuclients.com. Okay, who is this podcast for? This particular episode is for female breadwinners who might be feeling lonely in their journeys, who might be dealing with feelings that they haven't really resolved. Or maybe you have a conversation with yourself over and over again, but you really have nobody to really have that conversation with. So instead, you just have that conversation with yourself or with God in prayer. And we are going to talk about all of it today here on Pretty Rich Podcast. So I really believe that by the end of this two-part series, today and tomorrow, you guys will feel less alone. You breadwinners out there will feel less alone. You'll feel more normal, and you'll have better tools for dealing with all of these feelings and challenges, like the negativity in the world and the stigmas, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And I know that you're going to leave just feeling lighter and more positive about the situation. And speaking of positive, by the way, you guys, if you want to receive a dose of positivity from me every morning, you have to sign up for this completely free text service that we are starting to do over here at Pretty Rich Bosses. You got to receive, if you want to receive a positive message from me every morning, go ahead and text me the words morning hype to 310-388-4588. Text the words morning hype to 310-388-4588. I text you every morning. It's basically geared to set you off on the right foot. If I could give you just a slightly more positive shift in the start of your day, that should trickle onto the rest of your day. And that's honestly the entire goal of the morning hype, is just to start you off on the right foot. So yeah, text the words morning hype to 310-388-4588. Okay, like I told you guys before, I didn't decide that I was going to be a hashtag girl boss or whatever. I didn't decide that. I didn't decide that I was going to be a hashtag mompreneur or, beautypreneur, whatever. I didn't decide that I was going to be a beauty leader. In some ways, maybe subconsciously, but it just kind of happened, right? And so I've been married now for 12 years. No. Together 12 years. Together 12, married 10. I'm sorry, honey. And I think that I've dealt with some challenges over the years of having the stigma that, oh, you make more money than your husband. right? And over the last 50 years, let's talk about this. Over the last 50 years, gender norms have shifted. It's shifted significantly in terms of women's roles in the workforce, right? And society as a whole. And just the whole like feminist movement of the 60s and 70s and the burning the bras and, you know, the birth control and all that. It's broken down a lot of traditional gender roles, and it's paved the way for greater equality and opportunities for women, with more than 2/3 of women now participating in the labor force. Another significant shift has been the growing number of women who are the primary breadwinners in their households. If you are in the beauty business, I know more millionaires in the beauty industry, not even business coaches. There's people that do just eyebrows, just lashes. It's crazy, right? And I think that is getting more and more traditional school. We don't have a traditional education. Look, I'm stumbling my words here. Why do I have a top podcast? There's a lot more learned people out there than me. Why am I successful? Why? All I'm saying is, like, I think we are totally the dark horse. Like, the beauty industry is totally underestimated. And females in general are super underestimated. And I like it like that because I don't want anyone to see me coming. You know what I'm saying? So overall, the shift in these gender norms, I believe, over the last 50 years has been pretty significant, with women now playing a much more prominent role in the workforce and in society as a whole. And, there's still a lot of work to do, I guess. Does it really work? It's a lot of work to do to achieve true equality. How about let's just be awesome? Let's just be awesome and let the chips fall where they may, because we're awesome and they know it and they can't live without us. So you got to pay us to keep being awesome. You know what I'm saying? So female breadwinners in the beauty industry is unfreaking deniable. And I get an amen. And I get an amen. So I'm just going to give you guys some examples from the students that are in Pretty Rich Bosses, which is my online mentorship program for beauty entrepreneurs who refuse to settle. So without giving any names, I have a dear student / friend of mine whose microblading business, an academy just took off within like the first year of working with me. I worked with her personally. So we're just going to call her Natalie. Natalie. Okay, for code, because I don't want to reveal her identity. And then her significant other, her husband, got laid off shortly after. And you know what? They were in good shape. Because Natalie was bringing home the bacon. But this took a toll on their relationship. And, it took a toll on her partner's self-esteem. Her partner wasn't used to it. And her friends and family made negative comments about her breadwinning status, right? And, Natalie says that even though female breadwinners are no longer unheard of, we still live in a society where men are supposed to earn more. Do you agree with this? This is normal. Sure. It's not unheard of. But do you guys agree that we still live in a society where men are supposed to earn more? I do. We still live in that era. I don't know if it'll ever change, honestly. I don't know. I have another example of a female breadwinner that's in PRB. Let's just call her Julie. It's not Julie, my best friend. It's literally a code word. Okay. It's literally a code name, but she's a high power CEO. Has a well-known beauty brand. You guys probably buy things from her. And she makes more money than her husband. And her husband is a stay-at-home dad, and her career took off while her career took off and they did start to make more money, her husband started to feel insecure about his role in the relationship and the household. He felt emasculated by the fact that his wife was the primary breadwinner, and they struggled. He struggled with feelings of inadequacy, and so did she. And because she didn't feel like a good wife, she felt guilty about her success and the pressure it put on her husband. Do you guys ever feel guilty about your success? We're going to dive into this later, but that's a very common feeling. And so what ends up happening is my client, codename Julie, she tries to downplay her accomplishments, downplay her salary to make them feel better. But it only made things worse because they started to argue a lot more and their relationship began to suffer. And they eventually had to seek counseling because it got so just complex and complicated because there was an imbalance in the household. There was an imbalance in their income, and it stemmed from income. The number one thing that people fight about in marriages is income. And it's important to note that these are just a few examples. And I mean, it's not necessarily what happens in every relationship, but I'm just saying there are societal expectations and stereotypes that put pressure on relationships. And it's important for both partners, I believe, to communicate openly and honestly about their expectations. We're going to get to that a little bit later, definitely tomorrow when we talk about how to cope. You need to talk about your goals, right? Related to money and your career. And you have to be open and honest about it. Hopefully you have a partner that's open. And why it's hard to be a woman earning the majority of the money. Why is it hard for you? Why is it hard for you? Because these situations are not unique. There's a lot of women who are in these positions that find that being a female breadwinner comes with a lot of challenges, right? Societal expectations, gender stereotypes that dictate that men should be the primary breadwinners. Maybe that's in our DNA too, arguably, right? And it can lead to feelings of like guilt, shame, emasculation for the man, and to feelings of resentment and insecurity for the women, and, being in your masculine too much. I have glimpses of that for sure. And I'll be open about it with you guys here today and always. So the women who earn the majority of the money may face discrimination too in the workplace, may be viewed as less likable, less desirable to romantic partners if you're making a lot of money and you're single and you're dating. They may face resistance from their partners, family, or friends who are uncomfortable with the idea of women being the primary financial provider. So Dave Ramsey says that money is the leading cause of stress in relationships and marriages. Do you believe that? He says that money is the leading cause of stress in relationships and marriages. When one person feels like they're not contributing enough, or the other person feels like they're carrying too much of the load, it can cause major problems. And the reality is that when women are the primary breadwinners, it can be difficult for them to find a partner who's comfortable with that dynamic. And it can also be difficult for them to find support too from friends and family that don't really know what that is like. And I want you guys to know that you're not alone. And we're going to go through the challenges that people face when being a female breadwinner. And if at any time at all, if you're on Instagram Live, that these resonate with you, I want you to let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments, because we are a community. It's not just me talking at you, right? I want to hear from you. We're having a conversation. And I want to know your stories too. Okay. So, the first challenge of being a breadwinning female is guilt. Do we really need more of that? Sometimes mom guilt isn't enough. So guilt when it comes to making more money. And even though society has come a long way in terms of gender equality and women's rights, I think a lot of women who earn more than their male partners might still feel guilty about it. And this guilt, let's think about where it comes from. It might come from the idea that men should be the main providers in a relationship, which is so ingrained in us as children. I mean, Disney movies really effed us up, right? Oh, that Prince. Oh, Prince Eric. Oh, he definitely makes more than Ariel. He definitely does. He definitely does. Oh, Princess Jasmine, though. Princess Jasmine's a breadwinner. Maybe that's why I've always liked her. That's me. That's me. She married for love, right? But one way to stop feeling guilty about this is to be thankful for all the ways that your partner helps you, both financially and emotionally, because currency comes in all forms. Recognizing and appreciating the roles that your partner plays in the house, recognizing that they're not non-contributors. Unless you're actually with a non-contributor, then I don't know. They're not non-contributors. Men contribute. People in general contribute in different ways. Currency comes in many forms. Safety. Oh, I need that. I need a bodyguard. It's also important to realize that every relationship is different and that there is no one right way for a couple to share financial responsibilities. What works for one couple may not work for another. It's important to talk to your partner about how you feel in an open and honest way and to work together to find a solution that works for you. So, thanks, Sandy. It's not unusual for a woman who brings home the bacon, though, going back to the topic, it's not unusual for a woman who brings home the bacon to feel guilty about it. It's not unusual. But it is important, I think, to let these feelings out. Let's talk about it, okay? I don't want to be on autopilot. If I feel something, I'm going to talk about it because it gets bigger when you don't. It's scarier when you don't. And just realize that it probably comes from programming, societal norms, expectations that may be true for some people, but maybe it's not true for you, right? And it's important to live in gratitude and to be thankful that you were blessed, that you were given this opportunity. Like Will could not douse my fire. Like he just couldn't. Would I want to be a stay-at-home mom? I would have eventually monetized it to some degree. You know what I'm saying? Number 2, challenge number 2, negative comments. Oh, I love that. No. Right? Being a woman who brings in money can come with its own set of problems. Like, oh, you just wait. And Lux Permanent Cosmetics just said, my husband says all the time, he can't wait for me to make more than him. That's amazing. That's amazing. Good for you. And once you get there, it's a whole, you might not have all of these challenges, but you're sure to have some for sure. And challenge number 2 is negative comments. Strangers come from friends and family. Sometimes they won't even tell you to your face, but you can feel it. They'll treat you differently. People say things like this, your husband must love that you make all the money. Or this, I could never be in a marriage where my husband didn't make more. And they don't realize that, hello, I'm right here. Okay, these comments show traditional beliefs and biases about the roles of women in society, and it could be really hard to deal with. It could be hard to deal with. But remember that you're the only one that knows what's best for your family. You shouldn't let what other people say about your accomplishments affect how you feel about yourself or them. Be proud. Remind yourself of how hard you've worked. You know how hard it is to make this much money, to make what we make in 1 month. What we make in 1 month, most professions make in a year. So what I'm saying, you can defend yourself Have you thought you don't, what are you gonna just let that go? You just let that comment go? I don't. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do if I'm new. But give me like 1 or 2 meetings. I'm gonna start speaking up. I'm gonna start speaking up. Okay. You can do it in a casual or funny way, right? Which can help diffuse the situation. Like, oh, that's cute. Okay. I'm just saying, my husband didn't buy me the Chanel bag. Maybe yours did. I don't know. Right. Or you can do it too. That's probably not, don't be snarky. Don't be like me. Don't be snarky. You could say something direct and kind at the same time. You can say something like, oh, my husband and I actually make decisions as a team. Don't be snarky. I see, I'm like tempted to be snarky. We make decisions as a team, and we support each other in our career choices. You know, we don't define our worth of our relationship based on how much money we make. You know, this response, it's direct, it's kind, and it calls people up. Just don't say it in a snarky way. It also shows that you're not going to let somebody else's opinion or judgment dictate what you feel, or, you know, or have you question your relationship or your family choices. Okay. Man, comments. And the thing is, it's like, you got to focus on your own health and happiness. Just don't forget that you're not alone. And always know that the rules and expectations of society, this will come up, and be ready to inform others about how the roles of women are changing, or don't be, because it is also not your job to educate everybody and to teach others about what's up nowadays. It's not like you are not in charge of teaching the world this stuff. If it upsets you or makes you unhappy, you know, your own peace of mind can come first, because it can be, I've been here, emotionally and mentally draining to always have to teach others about social norms and expectations and about what to say that's tactful and what isn't. Right? It's important to set limits and not let other people's ignorance or biases affect your mental and emotional health. You know, I'll be honest. There are members of my husband's family that say they're okay with me making more money, but that's not how they act. That's not how they act. But it's okay. You know, I just have come to realize that, you know, they just come from a different time, and they come from a small town. Even though it's a city, it's still a small town mentality, and they're just not exposed to as many, you know, lifestyles as maybe I've been blessed with. And so instead of like ramming myself into like, let me educate you, you know, it's like, that's also not my job. It's okay. Challenge number 3, pressure to succeed. Now, you think you feel pressure as like, you know, creating your business. Just wait until you're the breadwinner. The pressure, I don't know what it is, but it definitely trickles. It multiplies, because being a female breadwinner can be a tough gig, especially when you have to juggle being a boss lady at work, a super mom at home, and a slutty wife on the weekends. Right? It can feel like you're constantly just walking on eggshells because you got to do it all. Overachiever, recovering overachiever. Right? But let's be real. Who doesn't love a good challenge? So the pressure to succeed can be overwhelming. So you got to find a way to keep your cool and not let the pressure get the best of you. And I think where a lot of this pressure can be alleviated is in a large emergency fund. Because let's face it, in this uncertain economy, it's always good to have a safety net. So if you're feeling the heat as a female breadwinner, start building your emergency fund. It definitely helps, right? Plus, it'll just give you one less thing to worry about. Hey, ladies, I am not talking about the emergency fund like what a lot of Asians like me growing up to. There's like a large amount of cash underneath the mattress. I am not talking about that emergency fund. I'm not, because that emergency fund can go away in a fire. I don't care if you have a fireproof case. You should put it in investments, okay? Low risk investments. So if you feel the pressure to succeed, don't forget to take care of yourself and your peace of mind and have an emergency fund, not under the mattress. Because I really think that when you do that, it at least takes care of one worry, one thing. And you're like, you know what? I can quit early today because I have that investment. I got one of those and it does help. You're like, it's okay. It's going to be okay, right? Challenge number 4. I got to do this quick. Relating to other women. This might be the last one because it's a big one. Challenge number 4 is relating to other women. Baby, this is me. This is me. I'm in therapy right now. If you're a female breadwinner, it's hard to relate to other women. It can be a very lonely journey, right? Sometimes it's hard to relate to the preschool moms because I am not the mom that volunteers at school. I don't chaperone every field trip. I don't bake cookies for the bake sale, or I don't plan the school parties. You know what I mean? I'm not part of the PTA. I don't volunteer. And I think a lot of women have a difficult time understanding me because I don't fit their idea of what a good mom should do for their family. I really don't, right? There are people that villainize me for having nannies. So how do you work if you don't have nannies? I mean, it's tough, right? I have 3 boys, 1, 5, and 8. And a lot of people don't understand it. It's not how they grew up. And to them, their programming, you know, it's not their fault, is that it's not ideal. And it can be really hard for female breadwinners to find a supportive community of women who truly understand and relate to their unique experiences, you know, but I grew up nanny style. My mom was always an entrepreneur. My parents had a small business and I always had a nanny. You know, and you can't let these things tear you down. It's really important for you to find your tribe and to listen to podcasts such as this so that you know you're not alone. I found my tribe. Heck, even better, I built my tribe, Pretty Rich Bosses. I run a team of 35 boss babes. And a lot of my employees and contractors are breadwinners in their families. And so it's really it's a support group at the same time as it's my business. It doesn't mean you can't have close relationships with other women. You just have to look in the right places. So in short, as a female breadwinner, it can be difficult to relate to other women, but it doesn't mean you can't have close relationships with them. And just know you're not alone. You just need to look in the right places for community, but please look for community because community is important. And when all else fails, you can always have a glass of wine with your besties and laugh about how you're not the typical mom. You're cool moms. You're not the typical mom stereotype. I'm a cool mom as I walk out of here in my velour jumpsuit straight out of Mean Girls, because that's what I'm wearing right now for those of you who can't see me. Straight up velour jumpsuit because I'm a cool mom. Guys, that's it for this episode of Pretty Rich Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are a listener of this podcast and you haven't taken the time to like this podcast on iTunes or review this podcast on iTunes, it would mean the absolute world to me. I was just looking at my reviews and I was like, dang, I have not asked for reviews in a while, but it would really mean so much to me if you could please rate this podcast 5 stars, leave a genuine comment from the heart. And I got a kick out of reading those reviews this morning. I really did. And thank you so much because see it as like my tip. So this podcast is free. But when you get a good service at a restaurant, you leave a tip. And so I am asking for a tip. I am, because it would mean the world to me to know what kind of impact I had on you. All right, you guys, until next time, I will see you tomorrow for part 2 of this.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to today's episode of Pretty Rich Podcast. If you want to continue the conversation longer, check me out on Instagram. It's my favorite place to connect with you guys at Real Sheila Bella. I'm happy to answer any of your questions or simply to chat and get to know you better. And if you end up doing something super awesome like screenshotting this episode and reposting it on your stories, that would put the biggest smile on my face. Don't forget to tag me. I appreciate every share and love feedback from my listeners. Also, do you have my number? Because if we're going to keep hanging out, you should probably have my number. So you can actually text me. That's right. You can text me at 310-388-4588. And if you're sick and tired of doing business alone and you're interested in accelerating your success by hiring a business coach or joining our mentorship program called Pretty Rich Bosses, go ahead and just apply. Why not? Check it out. Go to sheilabella.com/apply. And we'll schedule a free strategy session with either myself or one of my advisors. And of course, I gotta include my kids. So here to send us off are Bo and Gray. Gray, say, share with your friends.
Share with friends.
Please review my mommy on iTunes. Thanks for listening. Hey, Bo, can you tell everybody what our family motto is?
Yeah. I can do hard things.
I can do hard things. Good job, buddy.